1 million robotaxis on the road by 2020, full self-driving finished by 2020, a Roadster shipping in 2020, a humanoid robot in your home by 2025. Almost none of it arrived on time. Some of it has not arrived at all. And over the same years that Elon Musk missed nearly every deadline he ever set, he became the wealthiest human being who has ever lived. That is not a contradiction. It is the whole strategy. And once you understand how it works, you understand something important about how modern fortunes are actually built. Before we start, the usual and important housekeeping. I am not a financial advisor. This video is for education and entertainment only. Nothing here is investment, tax, or legal advice, and nothing here is a recommendation to buy or sell any security. This is also not a personal attack on anyone. It is an analysis of a pattern. Investing involves risk, including the loss of your capital. Past performance does not guarantee future results. I may hold some of the assets discussed. Always do your own research. Welcome back to The Silent Investor, where we go deep. Today is a little different. We are not pulling apart an earnings report. We are pulling apart a person, or more precisely, a method, because the easy version of this story is that Musk is a fraud who lies and gets rich anyway. That version is lazy and it is wrong. The truth is more interesting and far more useful, and by the end, you will have a genuinely new way to read every bold promise a company ever makes to you. First, let us establish just how much wealth we are talking about, because the number is difficult to hold in your head. Depending on which tracker you look at and which day, Elon Musk is worth somewhere between roughly $830 and $917 billion. In June of 2026, he briefly became the first person in history to be worth over $1 trillion. His lead over the second richest person on earth is more than $500 billion. That gap, just the gap, is larger than the entire fortune of almost anyone else alive. Now let us look at the other side of the ledger, the promises. And I want to be specific and fair here, with real dates, because vague accusations are worthless. In 2019, Musk told investors there would be 1 million robotaxis on the road by 2020. In 2019, he said full self-driving would be feature complete by the end of 2020. He has predicted full autonomy was roughly a year away, almost every single year since 2014. The Roadster was supposed to ship in 2020. The Semi was targeted for 2019, a $25,000 car by 2023. Optimus robots in volume by 2025. So how did those actually turn out? The Cybertruck, unveiled in 2019 and targeted for 2021, did not ship until late 2023. Full self-driving, as of early 2026, is still officially a Level 2 driver assistance system, meaning a human must stay alert and ready to take over at all times. The coast-to-coast autonomous drive promised in 2017 was eventually completed by a member of the public, not by Tesla, roughly 8 years late. And the 1 million robotaxis, Tesla launched a real robotaxi service in Austin in June 2025. It was genuine. It was also a small geo-fenced zone with human safety monitors and around 30 cars, a long way from 1 million. When a technology publication went back and measured this properly, they found something very consistent. Musk's timelines overshoot reality by a factor of 2 to 5. Not occasionally, systematically. One Wall Street analyst said openly that he had simply learned to add 6 to 12 months onto any full self-driving date Musk gives. This is so well understood inside the industry that it has effectively been priced in. The deadlines are not taken literally by the professionals. So the obvious question is, if everyone knows the deadlines will slip, why do they keep working? Why does the money keep coming? And here is the single most important idea in this entire video. There is a difference between missing a deadline and failing to deliver. Those are not the same thing, and conflating them is where almost everyone goes wrong. Musk misses the date over and over. But the underlying thing he is building very often does eventually arrive. And when it arrives, it is frequently real and occasionally world-changing. Late is not the same as never. And in the businesses Musk is in, arriving late but arriving huge beats arriving on time but arriving small. Because look at what did get built, even if every timeline was blown. Tesla became the best selling maker of electric vehicles on the planet and for a period the most valuable car company in the world. SpaceX did something aerospace giants with decades of head starts could not. It made an orbital rocket land itself and fly again, and then did it routinely, collapsing the cost of reaching space. Starlink put working high-speed internet over places that had never had it. None of these arrived when promised. All of them arrived, and each one was, in its category, genuinely transformative. So now we can actually explain the wealth, and it comes down to a mechanism with three parts. Part one, the audacious deadline is itself a tool. When you announce that you will put 1 million robotaxis on the road next year, several things happen at once. Whether or not it is true, the media covers it, which is free advertising worth a fortune. Talented engineers who want to work on the impossible come to you instead of a competitor. And your existing team feels a genuine urgency that a soft, realistic timeline would never produce. The deadline is a forcing function. It is designed to bend reality, not to describe it. Part two, and this is the financial heart of it. Those promises feed a story, and the story is what the stock is actually priced on. A normal car company is valued on the cars it sells this year. Tesla, for most of its history, has been valued as though it were already the winner of self-driving, robotics, and energy all at once. That belief in a gigantic future is what pushed the share price to levels no ordinary car maker could ever justify. And Musk's personal wealth is not a salary, it is mostly stock. So a rising share price, powered by belief in the promises, directly becomes his fortune. Part three closes the loop. That inflated share price is not just a number on a screen, it is a tool you can use. A high valuation lets a company raise enormous sums of money by issuing new shares cheaply because people are desperate to own a piece of the story. That money funds the factories and the engineers and the research that are needed to actually deliver the next real thing, which, when it lands, however late, justifies just enough of the story to keep the whole cycle turning. Promise, believe, fund, build, deliver something real, promise again. That is the engine. And in June 2026, that engine produced its single largest result. SpaceX, the company most people cannot even buy shares in, went public. It was the largest initial public offering in history, raising around $75 billion, dollars, valuing the company somewhere near $1.8 trillion, dollars, and briefly making Musk the first trillionaire the world has ever seen. And notice what SpaceX is. It is the part of the empire that most clearly delivered the actual engineering. Reusable rockets that genuinely work. This was not a promise being priced. It was a delivery being paid for. Now, the uncomfortable question you should be asking, if he keeps stating deadlines he does not hit, is that just lying? Is it fraud? This actually went to court. In 2023, investors sued Tesla, alleging that Musk's misleading full self-driving timelines amounted to securities fraud. In October 2024, the case was dismissed. The judge ruled that the statements were, in the legal phrase, corporate puffery. Optimistic, aspirational corporate talk rather than actionable fraud. Tesla's own lawyers had earlier argued in a separate case that the words full self driving were aspirational. Legally, in other words, these are dreams out loud, not contracts. But legal and admirable are not the same word, and this is where a channel that goes deep has to stay honest. Real people paid real money. Owners spent up to $15,000 on a full self-driving package based on timelines that did not hold. Investors bought at valuations inflated by expectations that kept slipping. When the story wobbles, and Musk's fortune has swung by more than $200 billion in a single week, it is ordinary shareholders who feel it, not him. Puffery is a defense in a courtroom. It is not much comfort to someone who believed the date and planned around it. And there is a genuine fragility underneath the record numbers that the headlines rarely mention. Almost all of Musk's wealth sits in just two companies, Tesla and SpaceX. Roughly 42% of it is SpaceX, around 13% is Tesla. That is the opposite of diversification. It is why his net worth can move by the entire market value of a large corporation inside a single week. The same concentrated belief that built the fortune so fast is exactly what could unwind it, because a story that is priced for perfection has an awfully long way to fall if the belief ever cracks. So, what do you actually do with all this as an investor rather than a spectator? The lesson is not be like Elon, and it is certainly not never believe anything. It is sharper than either. When a company makes a bold promise with a date attached, separate the two things it is really telling you. First, the ambition. Is the underlying goal real, and is the company genuinely capable of reaching it eventually? And second, entirely separately, the timeline, which you should almost always assume is optimistic. Judge the destination and the schedule as two different questions. Most people collapse them into one, and that is precisely the mistake the whole machine is built to exploit, because there are two ways to get this wrong, and they are mirror images. The cynic hears the missed deadlines, concludes the whole thing is a scam, and sells or never buys, and so misses a company that really did change the world. The true believer takes every date, literally, pays any price the story demands, and gets hurt every time a timeline slips. The person who does best holds both ideas at once. The ambition might be real, and the timeline is probably wrong. That is not a comfortable place to stand because it refuses you the certainty of either camp. But it is the honest one, and it is where the good decisions live. So here is the takeaway. Elon Musk did not become the richest person alive in spite of missing his deadlines. In a strange but very real sense, he did it partly because of them. The impossible promises generated attention, talent, urgency, and above all, belief. Belief inflated the valuations. The valuations funded the building. And every so often, the building delivered something genuinely real: reusable rockets, a dominant car company, internet from space, which justified just enough of the belief to keep the whole machine spinning. Missed deadlines were not a bug in that system, they were uncomfortably a feature of it. And a closing thought worth sitting with. This same pattern, the audacious promise that funds the real thing, is now being copied everywhere by founders who have learned that a big enough story can move faster than the truth. So, the skill of separating a genuine ambition from an unrealistic deadline is not really about Elon Musk at all. It is about every company that will ever try to sell you a piece of its future. Musk is simply the clearest, largest, most successful example the world has yet produced. Learn to read him, and you can read all of them. If this gave you a new way to think about the promises companies make, do me one small favor: tap like. It genuinely helps more investors find this. Share it with the person who thinks Musk is either a messiah or a fraud, because the truth is more interesting than both. And subscribe, because we do this properly every week. We do the digging so you do not have to guess. See you in the next one.